Welcome back to the channel, folks, and today before you lies the LCT LC-3 or G3. So this is the full steel variant of the G3 in the airsoft world. To showcase what I'm talking about, that's I would say that's definitely some full steel here that we got, folks. Nice replica. However, the LCT is not without its issues, and right now it's having a compression issue, I do believe. The gun was just not too long ago, I should say. Sorry, recently it was just shooting about 1.7 joules with .30 gram BBs, or roughly I think it was like 350 with a .30 or something like that. And then it settled back down. Well, my friend wants me to tune up his G3 to make it shoot hard again, so I think there is a compression issue in the gearbox. And I thought, what a better way to help people out than to take this beast apart to showcase, well, how to get to it. Now, I have never actually taken this thing fully apart, but I'm guessing it can't be terribly difficult. And I have done a basic field strip for him, so I figured we'll just do the full thing. So, make sure the magazine's out, unplug your battery, that'll make everything nice and easy. And then after that, we're going to begin working on it. So first off, you're going to punch out the pins holding in the stock. One of them will always come out nicely, and then the other one is always going to be stupid. So have some kind of tool on hand that you could knock it out with. A hammer, a mallet, a screwdriver, with a screwdriver to act as a punch. I just do this to knock it out to that point, and then I'm going to do that. And then this one you'll need to knock out as well, but first let's get the stock off. The stock has to come off to make this disassembly possible, and this is where it gets very difficult. The stock is super stiff on there, so take a screwdriver like this, line it up with the back end, make sure it's snug against it, and just start tapping it off. It's going to be tough. As you can see, it's starting to wiggle free. Okay, as you can see, it's wiggled a bit free. Now you still might have to use the force of 10 men to get it apart. Maybe it's not free enough. Hold up. Oh, here it goes. Almost. Again, it's really stiff, and it's worse for your first time. There it goes. So, the next thing I'm going to do is take out the wire from the stock. And we already wired this thing to Dean's, so that way it performs a little better. And you need to get that pin out, and then we'll be able to separate the lower receiver. As you can see, it already wants to come undone. But yeah, just do the same thing here. Tap that out until it gets to there, and then grab and pull. And there you go. So this pin is shorter. That always goes here. The two long boys are for the stock. So we'll set those aside now. And the receivers will come apart. And then we can set the rest of the stuff aside. If you wish to tack on your hop-up and inner barrel, the hop-up unit will pop out after this. And there's a big barrel spring up front here. Just mind that. But yeah, here's the hop-up unit and inner barrel. So this ring comes around it. But yeah, it looks like it's like a rotary M4 style one. It's a little weird down here, but it should work okay if you were to just put in a rotary M4 hop-up unit. There's the clip, so if you wanted to tack on it, turn the hop-up all the way off, which is to crank the wheel all the way counterclockwise as you're looking at it like that. And then you'll pry this clip off, and then you can pull the inner barrel and bucking out. But I don't want to do that right now because this gun's barrel and bucking is just fine. I just replaced it with an ENC 417 carbine barrel that was a 6.04 type bore, along with a maple leaf bucking. It's shooting pretty good. However, we need to up the velocity. And you're like, well, what if doing that is what dropped the FPS? It was already dropping before that. It was already getting lower before we messed around with that. So, yeah. All right. Let's see how this works. So, again, this is the furthest I've ever taken it apart. Again, you will always want to make sure that your gearbox is reset. So here's a slot where you would see the piston if it was cocked backwards. You want to make sure you cycle this in semi with a low voltage battery, or just cycle it just right to make it so that way, the air nozzle's forward and the piston is all the way forward. Otherwise, if it's cocked back, then the spring is going to be under a lot of tension and the gearbox will just basically explode open. This one does not have a quick change spring guide. I don't know if they do nowadays, but this one was bought back in like 2018 or 2019. So yeah, it's definitely one of the older ones. Let's see how this works. Maybe I'm going to go into it completely wrong, but I know for a fact you're going to want to take the motor plate off, which has two Phillips head screws holding it down. And let's get this first one undone. Number 2 is right here. Oop. Okay, and then it wants to spring out. There we go. Oh, ooh, I don't like that. It's got one of these little spacers. That's going to be fun for reassembly. So that's used to help adjust motor height. And then you take off these tabs, these leads. It's a little stiff. This has never been taken off before, so you may need to kind of like pry them off. There we go, like that. Okay, and then like that. And then just kind of shove these to the side and pull the motor out. Alright, okay. Looks like for reference, I'm actually going to shine this in and then use this. Let's see, hold on, sorry. Flashlight's being stupid. So it looks like that's how the wires are arranged. Sorry, this is a dim flashlight. But, okay, so that's how the wires are arranged, just like that. No wraparound crap. But there's also those two Phillips head screws down there, so I gotta go get another screwdriver. Alright. So I got this, and again, we want to take apart the Phillips head screws that are inside of here at the base of it, which is what's going to lock in the gearbox. And I think it's also going to allow for us to take off the pistol grip. Okay, there's one. Put that aside. Let's make sure. Yep. Okay. Okay, just want to make sure everything's all accounted for. Gonna go down in there. And we're gonna get the second one out. So far this hasn't taken too long. I've only been yapping at you for 6.5 minutes. Pull this grip off. Just gonna take a little force. Okay, this makes it easier. And again, it's not a part of the receiver, so you're gonna have to kind of thread those little fuckers, the tabs through. There's one, and then there's the other. Okay, all right. I wonder if we probably are going to need to take off this. I wonder if we do. Oh, it looks like... I'm not actually sure. Okay, hold on. Let me see if this comes out at all. Looks like it wants to, almost. But yeah, I think we need to punch out. Oh, wait a minute. What's this? What is this? Oh, will it come out now? Nope, I think we need to take that off. Let me just make sure. But yeah, I think that goes through both sides. I'm wondering how that will work. I wonder if this punches out, or if it's that pin right there. I don't think it is. I think it would be this. I wonder if that pops off. Give me 1 second. I gotta do a little bit of finicking. Okay, and off camera, I punched this pin out. You punch it out from this side. So it'll be underneath the selector. There's a hole for it right there. And it'll come out right there. And you take that out. And now we should be able to... Oh, that came out nice and easy. Wow, that was sweet. Okay, so there's the gearbox. All right, now it looks like we have... Just to... Let's see, I'm going to pan down a little here. Zoom in a tad bit. All right, so it looks like we have... two Phillips head screws and then some Allen head screws. So let's see, does this one work? Oh yeah, it works. All right, so let's get that going. Set this aside. So this gun isn't too hard to work on. So we had it disassembled in less than 10 minutes, and that was my first time doing it. Albeit there was a little time off camera, but I just wanted to confirm that that pin does indeed come out. We're gonna do this and take all these out. This is pretty boring. I'm actually gonna do this off camera real quick. Okay, so all of those screws are out, and it doesn't look like anything special is on this side, so it should just be able to come undone. So with that, I'm going to take a screwdriver, I'm going to fit it in the back here to help myself hold down the spring guide as I pull the halves apart. Now one thing I'm going to do too is as I'm pulling this apart, I'm going to press down onto the little fulcrums of the gears here to make sure that they don't come with it. Although I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty sure the bevel gear is gonna come with me, which is like fucking annoying as hell. Yep, it's coming with me. Okay, cool. All right, so that one's stuck in the bearing. Yeah, that helps out with that. And let's see if the spring. Yeah, this spring still feels really stiff. So let's test the compression. So the way that you always do that is you just hold your finger in front of the air nozzle like this, putting a little pressure on it to seal it, and then ram the piston forward in the cylinder. Yeah, that's pretty terrible. It's not supposed to do that. Let's see. Steel tooth piston, steel gears, the white tappet plate. We have the, is that steel? Nope, just a stainless aluminum cylinder, stainless aluminum cylinder head. stuff like that. So now, it looks like, I don't know, that O-ring is just kind of like meh. So let me try another one that I have that I pulled off of another piston head. We'll put a little silicone oil around that bad boy. This is what I'm doing. Kind of giving it some life. This is a different O-ring. Then, I don't know, I always kind of like to take it and just kind of stretch it like that. Now, wiggle it back into place. Get that out of the way. Let's see how it does now. Okay, so we're getting some resistance, but it's still pissing air. Not good. Alright, so let's try putting some lubricant around the stem of the cylinder head and see if it gets into the O-ring on the inside of the air nozzle, because I'm pretty sure this still comes with one of those. Yeah, it didn't really help that much. That's unfortunate. So, it looks like the air nozzle's O-ring is shot. Let's check this out, take this out. So yeah, these are all the parts. You know, V2 tappet plate, V2 cylinder head. This is another way to do a compression check for the cylinder head. That's what you want, where it's not letting it, you know what I mean? Like I'm not able to move it through the cylinder because it gets really good resistance there, which means it's sealing properly. Looks like that padding is fine. Double O-ring aluminum, always good. Put that back in. Again, just you don't hear any audible leaks, so it was definitely the air nozzle, which does appear to have an O-ring on the inside of it. It's hard to see, but it's there. Let me see if you can. It's gonna be dumb. Yeah, you can see that little O-ring inside of there. But yeah, it's pissing air. So what I'm gonna do on camera real quick for you guys is we're gonna measure the length of this using one of these. Okay, let's make sure it's zeroed. So that does matter. So this is in millimeters. So it's approximately that long. Okay, so that long. 21.42. So 21.4 to 21.45 would work, I would say. I would not go over that. Let me measure it one more time just to make sure. This thing is a little finicky. Yep. Okay, so that seems to be, if I put a lot of pressure on it, that's what we get. But if I back out a little, it's gonna have some flex. It's POM or polyoxymethylene, or maybe it's just nylon. I don't know. Maybe I'm giving you too much credit. So yeah, about that. So there you go. So yeah, I'm gonna find an air nozzle off screen, see if I have one that works, and then we'll put this thing back together. Alright folks, we're back. I only have 5 minutes left of filming time, so I'm going to see if I can get this closed up. So basically what we have going on here is I replaced the air nozzle with an SHS one that's kind of old, but it seems to be working. And then we're going to replace the spring with this very worn out, but still pretty strong M130. And this is what you should get with a good compression test, with a nice air nozzle and a good air seal. Like, notice how I can't move it hardly any further? That's what you want out of a good compression test. So yeah, let's close this back up. And to do so, we have to make sure everything is in place properly, and then get this aligned, and it's really tough. Okay, make sure that's held in there, and then what I like to do is I like to hold the screwdriver down through the back end of the spring guide here, because that keeps everything held into place, so it doesn't buck up on you. And then I always kind of like to close my gearbox shelves where I go front end first, and then kind of wiggle my way to the back. It's not easy. In fact, it's very tough. So I kind of wiggle everything into place. It looks like, I think my anti-reversal edge is out of place. Yes, it is. Okay, hold on. Sorry, I had to hold the flashlight in my mouth. I think everything is together. It looks like it. This is moving smoothly. That's what you want. And then what I like to do is take a screwdriver that can fit down the front end of the air nozzle and push up against the piston, make sure this reciprocates back and forth smoothly like it is. And then with that, we can put all the screws back in. As it appears, everything is as it should be. So I'm going to do that off camera because it takes time, and you should know how to screw screws in. Okay, so the screws are back into the gearbox, and then what we're going to start doing is reassembling the gun. So you're going to have the wires go through the slot for the pistol grip, like so. So that way when the pistol grip goes on, you're ready to go. Make sure that the trigger lines up with the slot for it, and make sure the selector switch lines up nicely too. Good way to test it is to pull the trigger, and in semi, it was working, and then let's put it in safe, and the safety is engaged. Very nice. Now, what I'm going to do also is I'm going to put that pin back in. It's generally always a good idea to do everything in the exact reverse order that you started in. So I'm going to do this where I try to align this pin, and then it looks like it's going to go in, and then we'll just need to tap it back into place nicely. Just do it gently, a little screwdriver with another screwdriver, or in this case a pair of pliers, until it's all the way through. It may take a little bit of time. Let me see, this is kind of tricky to do. I want to be gentle with his gun, especially because again this isn't mine. It's being a little stubborn, so it may need some alignment here that may be causing the problem. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the rear pin and put it through the rear pin slot to make sure that it's nice and snug like a bug in a rug, so it's being held in the proper place. And then we can probably tap this into place. It is being extremely stubborn, so let's do this. It's starting to go. Wow, that is really tough. Alright. Let's keep her going, I guess. This is being way tougher than it should. Alright, something's not right here. Or is it, again, just being stubborn? Ah, maybe that's what it is it needs to be cocked this way. So we'll hold it like that. Man, this is like one of the toughest things I've ever aligned. Let's see here. Sorry, I'm doing this off camera real quick. Okay, so off camera, I went ahead, and one thing you're going to definitely want to make sure you do is actually put this one in first, believe it or not. And then there's supposed to be a retention clip that came with it, like a little C-clip style spring, and it didn't look like it came with one, so that's not good. So yeah, hopefully that stays in place, and then you're just going to have to hammer it until it looks like this. It's not the most perfect, but it'll work. I feel like it's slightly indented the receiver here, which it is made of steel, so that is possible that it could have bent a little. But it looks like this is as good as she gets, folks. So after that, hopefully everything will kind of align properly for you. Now we can put the pistol grip back on. We'll hope that that keeps everything steadily aligned as it should. But yeah, this thing is definitely a little wiggly wobbly. So with that, we will take these motor leads, and then we will thread them through the spots in the pistol grip, which is going to be kind of difficult, I'm not going to lie. It may not hurt to just straighten these out a tad bit, but make sure you're very gentle with them, because otherwise if you're very rough, you could end up breaking them off. These are one of the most fragile parts of an AEG, in my opinion. And then after that, you're going to get this bad boy on like I did, and then make sure the wires aren't going to get crushed or pinched. And then it looks like it is on. So that is how that goes on. And then again, inside of there, you see those two holes in the corners there next to the holes that the wires come out of. Let's see if I can zoom in. Those are where those Phillips head screws go into. So it helps if you have your Phillips head screwdriver magnetized a little bit, which what you can do, well, this one's already magnetized, but if it isn't magnetized, just take a magnet and stick it around the end of it, and then you can also even magnetize the screws themselves a little more by doing that, and then it will help them stick to the screwdriver. So like this. Pretty cool, huh? So in that way, when you're putting these screws back in, you can have a 20,000 times easier time doing it, so long as you don't miss the hole. Miss the hole, that's what she said. So I'm going to do this off camera because it's really finicky, and you guys can't see me do it anyways. Okay, so now I got the pistol grip secured, and we're going to put the motor back in. So watch out for the plus sign for the positive. That's going to go on this side, and then we'll make sure it springs nicely. It should, all motors in pistol grips like that should always spring up and down very nicely if they're sort of just loosely thrown in there, like in an M4, a SCAR, in this case a G3. I think there may be some other guns that are like that, that have motors like that, like my Stoner or a Masada, MP5, etc. So put those leads back on, kind of make sure that the wires are like able to be tucked down into the pistol grip, which this one's being kind of stubborn, but now I got it. So then that way when you put the motor plate back on, that does not hinder it from being able to screw back on properly and also make the motor gunk up. So now we're going to take our this little guy right here, and that's going to just literally sit on top of the motor. This is a huge pain in the ass if you have a very like high torque motor. And I do believe, yeah, it went like this, because then that little metal disc will move. So then just kind of carefully wrap it over the top of that. And then thankfully I already had a screw partially threaded into here. So then that way we do that. Then we'll get the other one. You screw in the other end. Make sure that that works. There's that. And then before we go any further, I'm going to plug in a battery just to make sure it's cycles. Okay, so we have an 11-1 plugged in. Let's just make sure it cycles. She's golden. And this doesn't sound too bad. A little pitchy. It's not the smoothest gear set. I didn't reshim it. I didn't feel like doing that. Plus LCT gears sometimes can be noisy regardless. Alright, so the whole lower receiver assembly is back together. So now we need to get the gun so we can put the rest of this back together. And as I said before, I wrapped the sling around the tripod that he has on here. Whoopsies. I always like to do everything in like the reverse order that I did before reverse order of everything when I started. Okay, so make sure that this is aligned properly, and then what you're going to do is you're going to kind of take the receiver and sort of slide it into place. Can't remember exactly how this goes. Okay. Like that, kind of. And then it's going to face some resistance, so you just kind of smack it into place, kind of like that. Make sure the hop-up unit is aligned with the gearbox and stuff like that. So that way when you give it kind of the final smack into place, everything is aligned. Although I don't know if this was 100% aligned. Kind of looks like it's not, but let me see if I can kind of force it in. Yep, okay, we just did a Chad force in. Okay, yep, that's what you want. And then let's put that front pin back in. I don't think it matters what side it goes in, to be completely honest. I'm just going to throw it in on this side. It's going to be a little tricky at first because it's got this spring-loaded like locking device in there. And then you're going to kind of push it in, and then I just like to give it a nice tap, tap, tap until it's in. You can be rough, so it's all the way through. And then next, we're going to put the stock back on, which is always a blast with this gun. Okay, so the first thing you're going to need to do is thread the wiring back through the hole for the stock, which is always, again, just a ton of fun with this damn thing. So, again, there's that hole. I'm going to thread it through, and then you're going to start aligning it. I'm going to do this off camera real quick because it's annoying. Okay, so I got the wiring threaded through, and then what we're going to do is start aligning the receiver with the stock. Now this is where it can get finicky. Oof, okay. Let's set this here. I'm going to start knocking stuff over, I feel like. Okay. So again, it kind of has to like swallow it up. And you kind of just got to wiggle it until it goes on. Just be careful with your fingers. Again, it is not easy. It is usually very tough like this. It's so close. There it goes. Okay, and once it starts to go on, start to just... Now, it's on, but we have to smack it in place. So I'm going to smack it off camera using a hammer on the butt plate. Okay, so I literally just took a... Whoa, sorry guys. I just took a mallet and went wham, wham, wham until the holes were lined up. And the thing about this is that you have to make sure that the wiring, when it runs through, it doesn't get coiled up in here. Otherwise, if it does, that's a big no-no. So then we can put the pins back in. And usually, again, like the first one will go in nicely, and then always like the second one I think is like the dick for whatever reason. Maybe they go back. Oh, okay, that was nice. I think they're all the way in. Okay, well now let's test this thing on the chronograph to see if we got a higher velocity. Okay guys, we are at the chrono here, and we're going to be chronoing it with 0.3 gram BBs. Actually, I have to tilt the chrono to the side a little, or my camera to the side a little bit. Before it was shooting about 325 to 330 with 0.3s, or roughly 1.5-ish joules, give or take a little bit. And now we're going to see what it shoots. Now, again, we changed out the air nozzle, and then we upgraded the spring, so it should be shooting harder. Hopefully it does. Ah, yes. 1.8 joules. Significantly harder. So there you go, folks. That is working on the LCT LC-3. All right, so I wanted to throw in this voice recording with this screenshot after the fact. So what you're seeing is a screenshot from a video I sent to my friend of this exact gun shooting through the Corona with 0.32 gram BBs at 2.15 joules, and all I did was swap the inner barrel. So the inner barrel I had in there before was completely inadequate. It was a bad choice. That Lambda defense, or excuse me, the Lambda defense is what I put in there. The ENC 6.04 by 363 millimeter Type 4 barrel, brass Type 4 barrel, was not a good choice for it. It was too short, and I just think that it did not mesh properly with the hop-up unit and such. So throwing in the Lambda defense that I now have in there, it's a Lambda defense stainless steel 6.01 by 430 millimeter inner barrel, much longer, and it did the gun wonders. It brought it to life. I did not touch the gearbox in between this voice recording and also that video, and then when you guys saw me cut from the last section of video. And then I just wanted to give my overall thoughts on the LCT G3 or LC-3. It's actually a pretty damn good gun. I've heard of some people having some quality control issues with them, so you'll have to watch out for that. It's definitely not always the most reliable, and sometimes it can be very picky about magazines, so you have to be careful with that. And the magazines themselves can have trouble feeding, which is also annoying. They're not always the best on that. But in terms of the external quality, as long as you don't get a lemon, you know, a bad gun from the factory, and the internals, they're not half bad. The only thing that really needs to go is the air nozzle, potentially the spring if you want it to shoot harder, the piston head O-ring, and then I would also suggest replacing the motor, as well as maybe throwing in a MOSFET, and then the inner barrel and bucking, and then after that, you're pretty much set. So if you want this thing to be like a DMR, you know, like right out of the box, you might not be able to get that, but after you throw in some upgrades, I mean, what I just listed, you know, you could get parts that, you know, when you add all that up, would be a little over $100. It's not too bad. I mean, honestly, the fact that you don't absolutely have to replace the gearbox shell, the gears, the piston head, the cylinder head, cylinder, spring guide, etc. All you have to do is really replace those few components I named. Makes it so that way it's a relatively affordable gun to build a DMR off of, and the gun itself is not terribly expensive. It's not cheap either, but it's pretty decent overall. I'm actually very happy with how it performed after those upgrades. On top of that, I think that as far as comparing it to other G3s on the market go, you're really not going to get anything better. The JG ones are very plasticky, or they're Golden Eagle. They're very plasticky, and they're kind of cheaply made, so they're going to break over time, and things will just kind of fall apart on them after years of use. Some of them hold up, but some of them not so much. The Tokyo Marui ones are nice, but again, they're made for Japan, so I mean, it's going to be all plasticky, and it's only going to shoot like 280 FPS. And it's going to need a lot of upgrades to be like a DMR for most people's standards. And then you have the Classic Army ones, which aren't too bad if you're on a budget, for sure. You can make do with those 100%, but the LCT one just blows it out of the water. A Classic Army one has a lot of pot metal and aluminum in places where it shouldn't, whereas LCT made the whole thing steel where it's supposed to be steel, and the polymer is pretty nice. The tolerances are a bit tight, but hey, you know it's going to hold together for forever. And on top of that, it's not too terrible to work on, and the internals aren't that bad either. So overall, you can't really go wrong with the LCT LC-3. Check it out for yourself, see what you think about it, and at the same time, you know, definitely make sure that if you want to turn it into a DMR, or use it like a DMR, that you set aside some money to, you know, spend a little bit more on it to get it where it needs to be, because again, right out of the box, it's not quite there. But again, pretty cool G3. Really glad that I got the chance to get my hands on one like this and have some fun with it, and maybe someday I'll get one, who knows. But for now, I'm happy with what I have for my guns. Anyways, check out my other content, and check out future content when it eventually releases. But until then, and as always, happy airsofting.